For 38 years, Struckham Commercial Pest Services has provided trained certified technicians while using environmentally safe, industry-standard products. Pests can devastate your business. Together, we will ensure adequate sanitation standards and safe pest exclusion methods. Uncontrolled pest problems lead to significant financial loss due to food contamination, business disruption, and stock waste. Struckham provides detailed solutions protecting your business and reputation. Struckham, #1 in pest control services.
You're watching Now You Know.
Although we would like for a vaccine to be available as soon as possible, we still don't want it to be available quicker than it can be safe. If it's not safe, we do not want it to be used. Safety has to come before what we call the quickness. Because if it's not safe and people get serious adverse effects or life-threatening conditions from it, it certainly would not be something that would be good for our population.
This episode is brought to you by Struckham Commercial Pest Services, Alma's Loft, a 5-star Airbnb, and Greenwood Landscape Maintenance and Management Service.
What would you say to those aspiring to be exactly where you're sitting, and how would you encourage them to stay the course regardless of COVID or anything else that's happening? Knowing what you do know now, how would you, encourage them to embark on the same field or the same industry?
I think there's many avenues they would have to take. First of all, and I'll let her expand on that, but this one thing COVID has probably brought to light is the fact that you're going to be so challenged with this present situation, right? You from the get-go, and I think this is almost not having to, necessary to say, but I'll say it anyhow. You need to have that same, first of all, that kind of passion to be in this industry. You need to have it from the get-go that this is what you really have the passion to do and you're serious about it. Because you're going to have all these kind of tests. There's many things that are going to test you whether or not, so you can't be for the wrong reasons. You need to say, well, I'm a musician, I'm an entertainer, and this is what I want to do. And so you have to be there first. That's just before anything else. And then comes all the other little challenges and all the things the requirements that you need to have. You want to expand on this?
Yeah, I'm just to bounce off of that. Don't get into it to be rich, because you will be disappointed, right? It has to be, for us, it's a labor of love, mostly. But your passion has to come from within, and you can't be driven by the monetary and the fame and glam and all of that stuff. That fluff isn't going to take you far if that's what you're getting into it for. Mm-hmm. But I think young people,
if that comes, it's good.
Yeah.
But you can't be in for those reasons from the get-go.
I think for young people wanting to get into the industry, I think this is a perfect time, because there are a lot of artists that are just sitting home doing nothing, right? A lot of very talented people that have spent many years in this industry. This is the time now to tap into what they do, what they know, and get a mentor and have somebody pour themselves into you.
Whether we accept it or not, we have had a lot of the individuals who come from the eastern part of the world who have now who have pretty much taken over a lot of this. So it makes it very, very, very difficult. The banks are not lenient in terms of that. But if anybody was still interested, despite the fact that all of that may be the case, start small. Start small with a little wherever you may have, a little coop or whatever you may have, and build from that. But it's not going to be an easy success.
In 1924, Kiwanis International, they approved something we call the objects of Kiwanis. There are 6 objects of Kiwanis. And I would choose number 1, which says to give primacy to the human and spiritual rather than the material values of life.
in the words of the human vernacular, don't jump the gun. Don't jump the gun, right? Education. Education is very important. Whatever you want to do, if you want to own a pest control company, and competition is good. Otherwise, other persons might come to me and ask me for advice, and I don't hold back on advice to them. I would say education is very important because you need to. Anyone can own a company, but you need to be knowledgeable and never reach a point where you feel as if you know everything. Because I'm 38 and I've been working to Struckham full time since I was 19. And every time I go to a different industry event, I learn something new, right? So speaking on that, Struckham, I sit on the National Pest Management Executive Leadership Board. And that is something huge. That I'm the first person in the Caribbean to ever sit on a board that is honored in the United States of America. I sit on the fumigation board, the National Fumigation Board, so a lot of persons getting the 10th place on the home.
Right.
So they're sitting on the board that speaks to these things, right?
Yeah.
What's needed and what isn't needed.
So you really have to follow your passion. But at the same time, you have to appreciate that because it's very competitive, then you need to be as well qualified as possible. You probably need to at least try to have a master's degree in some area of specialty. You have to be able to differentiate yourself in the current environment. And then I think also most importantly is to be able to get a good mentor or several good mentor relationships. What I think is harming a lot of young attorneys now is the ability to get what we call pupillage, meaning that you have a training year under which you are working under a very experienced senior attorney who is able to guide you and introduce you to the profession.
We are the product of the people we are with, and choosing mentors, choosing confidants, choosing people who you want to connect with to obtain the knowledge that they have, to draw from them, sometimes even suck out of them all that they have. That's really, really important. Find people who you want to be like, and then just make yourself available to them, to help them, to support them, to learn from them. And then you got to read. Oh, you've got to read, you've got to read, you've got to do your research, you've got to think. Always be 3 to 5 years in the future, every day in all of your thinking.
You have to be passionate about the career that you choose. You have to have a love for it. Right. You have to want. Now, whilst this industry, I can say it provides you a comfortable life for those who are successful. There's extreme spectrum for those who are not successful.
Okay.
But the difference between those two is that somebody who is always educating themselves, always on top of what is happening globally and internationally, willing to understand contracts, okay, understanding changes in contracts, has to be a people's person, has to be filled with plenty integrity, honesty, and transparency.
First of all, I must say to them, do not expect a bed of roses. You hear about it, it's not an easy road. You're traveling to heaven. Being a representative is really not an easy job. But if you have the heart and you have the focus and you really want to help people, then you can do it. And I encourage them to make sure that they are about making a difference in the life of the people who they were elected or hired to serve in their constituencies and throughout the country. Politics is not about self-aggrandizement. It's about service to God and country.
I can tell you, Denise, my background, before I became a pastor, I was a human resource manager. And that really, really prepared me for my pastoral role, right? The two overlap in that as a human resource manager, my focus was the people. As a pastor, my focus is the people. And so to be able to meet the needs of the people, not just from a spiritual aspect, but how do I want to transition to, I want to transition from where I am now, physically in another island, and need to get to perhaps the US or Canada or even into New Providence. How do I maneuver? What do I do? What are the steps that I need to take? There are some, like I said, there are some technical competencies that we have to know. I mean, as a religious leader, I have referred persons to psychologists, and there's nothing wrong with that because they understand the psychological aspect or the psychological burden that a person may experience. And so persons wanting to become a religious leader, a counselor, a mentor, or somebody that just helps to encourage people spiritually, the two have to go together.
I think it was Google. They implemented I'm trying to remember what the name of the position was, but a chief HR analytics officer, I think. So that this person works solely on trends coming out of the data and how it operated. I think you're also going to see in the future, you're going to have different professions in HR that provide that level of cushioning, so to speak, between what happens in a crisis and how you respond to it. That's going to be relatively important. And then I'm going to go to my roots, which is onboarding. Onboarding has become a significant part of what we do. And in terms of onboarding in a different and a more digitalized way. So when we talk about the technologies that will support us, I would recommend and encourage HR professionals who are coming into the profession to really and truly be more technically savvy, embrace technology, understand that roles may change, but also I think in terms of the importance, we have to stay focused on people.
I'm glad you asked that question because I've even had medical students who've been watching what has been happening from Hurricane Dorian to COVID, and they're really now seeing, it's not a glitz and glamour. You go to school, you working hours, you leaving families, all of these things. I encourage them every day. I said, at the end of the day, the first thing is to know your purpose and know why it is that you want to be a part of this field. You have to see it as something that you really want to do, and understanding that it's important to respect the oath that you will take to take care of the patients to the highest quality and standard of care that you can provide. And once that is your objective, at the end of the day, it helps you because it is something that you love to do. You're dedicated to your work. You want to take care of patients. So I encourage them, and I would still encourage all persons now to look to that. Sometimes it's not easy because, in our health, there are many years, you have to study for a minimum of 8 years plus potentially to have become a physician. And then there is a requirement now to specialize, which is between 4 and up to potentially 8 years after that. But the time goes by quickly. A lot of people now look back and say, wow, I can't believe all those years have gone. And you still get the feeling at the end of the day when you save someone's life and you help persons that, hey, it did not all go in vain.
Thank you so much for being a part of our series. It was indeed a lot of fun speaking with such qualified professionals. I want to thank you for watching, liking, and sharing the video. And of course, to all of the participants who engaged in lively conversations that we can all use as we continue to build our societies beyond COVID-19. Thanks again, and now you know.